Just like to say, we appreciate all those who are in attendance tonight, our speakers, as well as our invited guests. This is an informational session. This is not, to clarify that, this is not a political rally. There are many rumors that have been spread throughout our community concerning the casino and the entertainment district. There were a lot of questions. I felt like as a pastor, since this was one of the areas that had been rumored that they were going to put entertainment district, that I wanted some factual information. I felt like the other spiritual leaders and community leaders wanted the same factual information. So we appreciate these leaders coming. They take time out of their schedule to be here, and we're looking forward to hearing them speak. At the end of the time they have been allotted for speaking, we will collect questions. You should have been given a piece of paper, there's a pencil in front of you in the pew to write a question. We will collect the questions and randomly pull out the ones that we have for as much time as we can use to have those questions, and as much time as our speakers will allow us to use their time. I would like to start the service tonight with a word of prayer. So if you would bow your heads, please. Heavenly Father, we ask for your blessing on the meeting tonight. We pray for clarity from our guest speakers, that our desires of people would be to honor you in all the decisions that that are made by elected officials. You have instructed us in your word to pray for all that are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceful life in all godliness and honesty. For this is good and acceptable in the sight of God our Savior, who will have all men to be saved and come to the knowledge of the truth. May your will be done. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Again, I would like to say I invite our speakers here tonight to shed some light on the topic of a possible casino being located in our area. In recent weeks, there have been lots of rumors and speculation, but little facts. It is my hope that tonight we will be given the most up-to-date information available. I was able to contact some of our spiritual leaders so that they too could accurately be informed on the topic when addressing the issue in their churches. I realize that this is a topic that many people on both sides are passionate about. This meeting is an informational meeting, not a political rally. Many concerned citizens contacted us about gambling in general and the casino specifically in our area. Because of the limited seating, we had to limit how many we could have attend. There was a large response when the word was spread of the meeting. There were many citizens expressing concern over the issue and felt like their voices were not being heard, that the issue was being rushed through our state. We have had several local newspapers and local TV stations here tonight, and other TV stations as well, here tonight to help cover the facts and inform our area residents. The church is also live streaming the event on our Facebook page at Old Carriage Road Baptist Church. And the speakers that are invited tonight have a special expertise in different perspectives on the topic. I would remind you that this is a place of worship. We expect everyone to be treated with respect. So there may be some that you may agree with and some you may not agree with, but we expect, and I don't think we're going to have a problem, but we expect everything to be done respectfully in this local church. I would like to say we do have, in addition to our speakers, and of course you as invited guests, we have our former Rick Corner, I believe, is here. As Rick, we appreciate him being here. And we also have tonight Sandy Smith, who is running for the U.S. Congress, which is located here. So if you would like to speak to them, I'm sure they would both be glad to speak with you. As I mentioned, we want to try to go ahead and speed things along because this is going to be maybe a lengthy session tonight, and we do appreciate all those who are willing to participate. First, I would like to introduce our first speaker, Representative Chester. Thank you, sir. Representative Chester. I will kind of give you just a little bit of his biography. He was elected in 2022. He represents as a state representative for North Carolina House District 25, which covers the majority of Nash County. Representative Chesser serves as a member of the following committees: Appropriations, Appropriations Capital, Health, Insurance, Military and Veteran Affairs, and Oversight and Reform. Earlier this session, Representative Chesser championed the pistol purchase permit repeal, which has since become law. Representative Chesser recently championed the Loving Homes Act, which was signed into law last month after receiving unanimous support. The Loving Homes Act worked to increase access to homes for children in foster care and help ensure North Carolina is the best state to be born in. With the phrase, quote, "good policy never punishes innocent people," unquote, as his motto. Representative Chesser has sponsored and co-sponsored dozens of bills this session that work to bring all stakeholders together to find a sensible solution. A proud husband and father, Representative Chesser and his wife operate a Christian-based youth soccer league that encompasses Nash, Franklin, and Wake counties. Prior to serving in the North Carolina House, Representative Chesser served as a police officer for the city of Raleigh and the town of Nags Head. Representative Chesser is a combat veteran of the U.S. Army National Guard. Would you come please at this time and speak? Again, thank you for your time.
Hope you guys don't mind, I dismissed my jacket. I know you were admiring it a minute ago, but it's a little warm in here, and I think it's a little less formal, and we can have a more open conversation. So first I want to just say how much I appreciate everybody taking the time to come out and be civically engaged. If anything else, this issue has engaged the community to contact me, Senator Barnes, I'm sure the commissioners have heard plenty, and actually get involved in an issue. And I hope that this one issue isn't the end of that engagement. I hope that this engagement will continue at least through my tenure, whatever that ends up being. I know everybody's busy this time of year. As you mentioned, we got a soccer league that's getting ready to kick off. So I appreciate people taking their time out. It's weird to stand at a pulpit because I don't do that. But you know, I'm proud of the league that we have. We got a little over 200 kids. We let them play for free. So if you get the rule of 3, 1 kid, 2 parents, we're going to be touching about 600 people a weekend with the gospel. So if you guys find yourself bored and around a little town called Bunn on a Saturday morning, hit me up and come out and watch the kids play ball, and I can always find a use for you to share the gospel with somebody. So a little background on this. I'm going to stick to the facts of what's actually in the bill and what we know. What I know is in our community, last month we were hit by a tornado. I spent many days in the field with the sheriff, checking on our residents, meeting with our residents, and I heard one consistent fear when everyone found out that Pfizer was hit. Are they going to rebuild, or are they going to pick up and move away like QVC did? That's a legitimate fear. And one problem that exposes is jobs. We don't really have an abundance of jobs in this area. I don't think we have the luxury to turn away jobs, personally. Nash County sits at about 5% unemployment. The rest of the state sits at about 3.6%. Puts us just under 50% higher than the state average. As far as income goes, I believe the state sits around 55%, is that right, Rick? Ish? $55,000 as an average salary in the state. Nash County's in the 40,000s, 42, 43, something like that, I believe. 43, thank you, off the top of my head. So we're not exactly blowing anybody out of the water, guys. Like he already mentioned that I try to legislate by motto, that is good policy never punishes innocent people. And I also believe the best social program that we can offer people is a job. I don't know about you guys, my church was just giving away backpacks. Small church, not much bigger than this one. We gave away over 100 backpacks in the community. I know the sheriff's office just gave away, what, 400, I believe? That's 500. You know, the city was giving some away. If you put all this together, we're estimating that last week alone, we gave over 1,000 backpacks away. I mean, we all acknowledge there's a need in this community, and we are trying to meet that need. Again, I say the greatest social impact we can have is making sure people can have a job. So, when we're looking at the bill, I want to be clear, Nash County is not mentioned in the bill. No. I've got it on my laptop there. If you guys want to see it, you can search it all day, read it for yourself. It's not there. The reason Nash County is mentioned is because it meets all the criteria that is laid out in the bill for what counties would be eligible to host a site. Okay? There is a private entity that is looking at Nash County to develop a site. For the same reason that any other entity that is looking for economic development looks at Nash County, or Edgecombe County for that matter. It's the location. It's the infrastructure that's already here, and it's the educated and quality workforce that we can provide. We have, between Nash and Edgecombe County, roughly 15,000 people that are residents that do not work in either county. So that's one of the complaints that I hear, well, where is the labor force going to come from? One, I already mentioned the unemployment rate in our county. We can get people good jobs. But two, if we had better paying jobs, we might incentivize some of those people who are leaving our county to stay home. What happens when you leave to make your money is you tend to spend money there too, right? I like living here, I like working here. So I like to encourage people to do the same thing. It is projected that what will be built in Nash County, I can't speak to it because it's not in the bill, but it's projected that if it is a resort-style casino, which I'll tell you what I've been briefed on is, I'll go ahead and say that. It is a resort-style casino that includes a family-style resort and shopping centers and restaurants and the like. Okay? So it's not a standalone casino that's only gambling. That the impact that would have on our community, I just lost myself, appreciate it, is 4,500 to 9,000 jobs. That's not all in Nash, but that's spreading out across, I mean, they're looking at this thing impacting 26 different counties. That's a quarter of the state. This is not a Nash County alone issue. This is a regional issue. The project, we're dealing with some competition. Don't know if you guys care about that, but I'll touch on that. We've got 3 casinos that are being built along the Virginia border right now. Virginia's approved it. They're specifically targeted to be as effective as possible in targeting North Carolinians. They're paying money to target in radio ads, TV ads, and the like. They're advertising in North Carolina. The one that is now open is in Danville. It opened the second week of June. They reported $12 million in June. That they made $12 million in June. And it's estimated that 65% of that came from North Carolina. It's projected that over the next 12 months, $259 million will come from North Carolina and go into Virginia to that casino. The Virginia Joint Legislative Audit Commission, which is what oversees the casinos in Danville, said that that casino accounts for 3.2% of the city's total employment. 3.2% of every job in the city is right there in one facility. That's 1,600 jobs. And that doesn't count the 900 jobs that were created for temporary construction purposes. There's no denying that Danville is now being put on the map as a tourist destination, and North Carolinians are visiting it. So the total market potential at maturity, which is measured out 3 years, is $2.2 billion. This isn't just about money, but I know people want to know why the state legislature is looking at putting it in the budget or not running it as a standalone bill. The reason I throw those numbers out is because this is exactly why we're looking at putting it in the budget. This is exactly why the General Assembly is looking at having it in, because it is a funding mechanism. It is a revenue generator that we are allocating for a tax cut. The projected tax cut to get the personal income tax to less than 3%, 2.75 or 2.499, whichever one it ends up being. The funding from these facilities is what we are using to offset to get to that point. That's why it's a budget item. The budget consists of 2 parts, and one of those is a finance package, which is how we accumulate the money or generate the revenues that we then spend. Some of the arguments that I've heard are it's a bait and switch. We're being told the same lie. That I don't want to keep swatting at you guys. It's the gnats up here. Forewarning to other speakers, they followed us. That it's the same bait and switch we got with the lottery. You can take that, it's okay. Interesting, both of those programs predate me, right? I was briefed February or March on this particular project. Many of the other elected officials in the county were briefed long before me. So it's not a secret program that people were trying to hide from people because they were afraid you couldn't handle the truth. It's just an economic development process that you do with large-scale projects to make sure that the land doesn't get bought up, options don't get bought up, and the project doesn't get frozen should you choose to execute upon it. But going back to the lottery hasn't been a complete and total failure. According to fiscal research at the General Assembly, Nash County received $5.7 million from the lottery in fiscal year 2022. That's $384 million for pre-kindergarten, $3.6 million for non-instructional support, almost $400,000 for college scholarships, another $200,000 for school transportation, another $100,000 for financial aid, and so on. A little bit over $1 million for school construction, which is what we were told the lottery would do, was supplement education. I'm not up here to defend anything. I just want to present the facts and answer questions. And I wasn't sure of the format of what we were going to be doing here until a few minutes ago. So I just wanted to go ahead and put some facts out in front of you guys, and I'll stay and answer questions later should you guys have them. And as always, I'm here. Sean from my office is here. Make sure you get our contact information. We're available to you guys at all times, and we're just here to help.
Thank you, Representative Chester. We appreciate your willingness to be here tonight. We would acknowledge, I think most of us here, that our state legislature has done some good things in recent times. I know from my perspective, dealing with the abortion issue, we appreciate the work that was involved in that, and we appreciate you being here and willing to stay to answer questions. Our next speaker tonight is the Sheriff of Nash County, someone I personally am a little more familiar with, as I see him at the Y working out occasionally, and we appreciate him being willing to come and speak to us as well, especially with the topic of security at the proposed, if it happens, the proposed casino entertainment district, as well as the surrounding communities. He has been sheriff since, how long have you been sheriff? Was I born back then? He has been sheriff for quite a while. Very popular sheriff in our county, and we really appreciate him. And I'm going to ask him to come and speak to that issue.
If it's all right, I'm gonna stay down here. I think I talk loud enough. I don't need to be up there. I'm not a preacher. I don't have to swat away as many flies. This was brought to my attention about 2 weeks ago that a casino was possibly coming here. I got a text from a commissioner, hey, you're against this, aren't you? Look, I don't play cards. My grandmama didn't let me play cards. If there would have been a casino somewhere, my daddy would have been in it. That's where I'm caught up. What I want to talk to you about is the safety issue with it. Are we prepared if a casino comes here? We're not prepared right now. I'm 15 deputies short in Nash County right now out of a shift of 34 patrol guys. So do you think we could respond? Probably not to the level that would need to be, but I called I found out as a young sheriff, the best thing to do is call an area where there is a like situation. So I called New Jersey, talked to those commanders there and the chief about, hey, what's going on? You've got a casino in your district or in your city. Then I called Baltimore. I said, look, we have a possible casino coming here. Councilman, you can have my seat right here if you want to. Come on up. You good? So I called 3 different places and I said, I want the truth about casinos. Is it going to bring crime? Is it going to bring issues to a community? The first place I called was New Jersey. New Jersey has run through the situation of defunding the police. Y'all remember all that during the election time? He said, we didn't have a problem until we started this issue of not being able to keep police officers, whether you call it defunding or if you call it just being able to recruit law enforcement. So we had to shut down the casino district, law enforcement. And obviously, without a police presence, you're going to have more problems. He says, but we also have another problem. He said, and I want you to know if you have anything to do with, if you put a casino somewhere, where are you going to put it at? If you have a lot of foot traffic, no way of accessing people in and out and not knowing who you've got there. He said, obviously, we call them red light districts. He said, your crime's going to rise. So if you're doing this, having a controlled access area where cars can come in and out, and obviously, if somebody's investing $2 billion, as I've been told, and I don't know how accurate that is, I would hope that you would have a very good camera system to pick that up. He also says, if I had a Super Bowl or the Billy Graham event, he says, with the more people, obviously you're going to have crime with it. I want to commend Rocky Mount for what they did on 2 things. I was oblivious to this, as he said, he just found out about it a month or 2 ago, but evidently this has been in the works for a while. DOT has did an outstanding job. Now, every time I go down 64 and the highway shut down, I'm like complaining about it, but they have open access roads up. They're doing a heck of a job on Sunset Avenue. They're moving it where traffic can get in and out of here. 90 million vehicles travel these roads every year, I-95 and 64. It's a lot of traffic there. They're handling it pretty well. The police department, the city council has did an outstanding job in raising the pay of police officers from 40-some to no openings in Rocky Mount because they increased his pay to $60,000. I commend the city of Rocky Mount, the mayor, the chief, and the council members for what they did. They did a good job with it. But I can tell you, if you have a technology police, professional law enforcement, trained law enforcement, you're not going to have the problems that if you don't. So I called Cherokee. He says, obviously you're going to have these issues. He said, what are you looking at? I said, well, I've heard that there might be addiction to it. He said, well, across the state of North Carolina, plenty of places now have fish tables. City of Rocky Mount's got fish tables. Have you seen addiction where it's causing crime? I've not. I don't see the issues of somebody robbing somebody to go play cards or whatever you're doing in there. I don't know what you're doing in there. However, I do with fentanyl, I do with gangs, and I do with the drugs. I see that end of it. If it's police strike and you have professional law enforcement, that will negate a lot of it. But if you put it in a bad area, then obviously your crime's gonna rise. But I'm here to take questions from you, so when you leave, you can't say, well, the sheriff just got up there and talked a whole lot and didn't let me ask questions. That's where I'm at, so ask me and I'll do my best to answer you on the security part.
We're trying to have questions at the end, so I'm sure
Okay.
there are questions.
All right,
But they'll be at the end of everyone speaking.
okay?
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, sir. Again, we really appreciate Sheriff Stone and the excellent job that he does in Nash County. And hope that if you do have some questions, that there will be time at the end, after all the speakers have spoken, if they have not addressed a specific question, that maybe your question will be selected and they will address it. If not, I'm sure you can get in contact with him, he will be glad to address it. Okay, our next speaker is a sheriff from Rockingham County, Sheriff Page, or is he here presently? Appreciate that. I don't have a lot to say other than his county is also under consideration for a similar casino, and he just happened to be in our area today, and we're so thankful that he is able to come by and speak to us. So, along with the graciousness of Sheriff Stone, we'd like to ask you to come and feel free to speak to us. Thank you, sir.
It's an honor and pleasure to be here today. I didn't know if I was going to get to speak today, so I made a few notes. But the concern that we have, I found out about 4 weeks ago. We're good? Okay. I found out about 4 weeks ago that in Rockingham County, they're looking to rezone a piece of land that would potentially be a spot for a casino. It's 192 acres. It's not been zoned yet. August 21st, we'll have a meeting on that, and the county commissioners and a lot of people have a lot of interest. It's right beside, have you ever heard of Victory Junction? It's like Victory Junction. We got a place called Camp Carefree, and they've been working with kids since 1986. I don't know exactly how many acres, but they have a lot of kids with disabilities and kids that have problems that they have a place to go where they can be a part of during the summertime with volunteers. They want to put that beside Camp Carefree. There's a lot of residential around that area. It's not the right place. Personally, I'll speak personally, I oppose gambling and gaming. But professionally speaking, just a little bit. I do have a concern about public safety, just like the sheriff does. If you're going to put in a gambling operation, a gaming system operation, you've got to have law enforcement infrastructure in place. Unfortunately, a lot of times our commissioners get behind the curve, and that's an afterward part, because people want to get the revenue in first. But we need to get the enforcement presence. Right now, we're having a problem across the state, across the country, getting people to come into our career field to protect our communities. And that's what we do, protecting and serving. There's a history, like I said, of funding, but usually it's on the back end of consideration with our elected officials. So I'm going to move on. Professionally, 22 years, the North Carolina Sheriff's Association has opposed video gaming, video sweepstakes, fish, whatever you call it, the games. We've been sued and junked and everything else for about 22 years. You still may have a few places operating around here, but we've seen the robberies, we've seen the crimes associated with it. And I've also called some of the casinos, particularly around the Indian reservations, to hear kind of what some sheriffs saying. Not as much problem, some saying, well, we get the residual, but also we don't get any revenue, we're doing the work. So we do the work for others. So that is the current concern that I've been hearing. But I think the biggest thing that bothered me, myself professionally, is the lack of transparency and truthfulness in the discussion on video gaming and casinos in our communities. Lack of transparency at the legislature. It concerns me that I'm conservative, and I hear people conservative, but they're talking gambling revenue. It is about revenue because trying to lower the tax rate and find revenue sources. There are other revenue sources besides gaming. But to be fair, I believe we are a country, and I'm stating, our country says we're a country of, for, and by the people. And so I said this, is why can't we ask through a resolution in our county, and other counties and other areas surrounding ask our legislative body to allow for referendum in our local communities and our counties to decide what we think is best for our community. Let our citizens that's in the Constitution. I'm just telling you like it is. What this is about legalizing gambling. It's changing the law and going through a budgetary process. Now, I ask the same question. Why is our legislature going through, and our leadership going through a process of budget versus the traditional, put the bill out and let people discuss it, committee, and decide what we want to do? Keep it out front. Be transparent, because it's a budget issue. But guys, ladies and gentlemen, it's also a gambling and a gaming issue. I don't want to tie up a lot of your time, but I want to let you know, I have concerns professionally. We fought this for 22 years, and it does bring some good in this conversation, but it will bring some bad. Location also is important. The location in my county, I'll speak for my county, it's not a good location. There was a guy, I don't know if you remember a movie called Walking Tall.
That's right.
There was a guy named Buford Pusser. And he was dealing with what's called the county line game. And this location is near the county line. It's kind of interesting. And Buford Pusser said this. He said, I had to stand up alone for what I believed in. And he said, look what they did to me. Ladies and gentlemen, if people in North Carolina do not stand up, they'll do the same thing to you. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Sheriff Page, for your insights as well. Our next speaker this evening is Robbie Davis. Mr. Davis is a resident of Dorches and a lifetime resident of Nash County. He is the owner of a construction company called the Turnkey Contractors and has decades of experience in the business owner in the community since 1984. Mr. Davis has served as a member of the Nash County Board of Commissioners since 2002, representing District 7. For many of those years, he served as chairman of the Nash County Board of Commissioners and continues that role today. At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Davis if he will come and give us some insights from his perspective.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. That wasn't quite enough to get me started. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you, I appreciate that. I don't think I've ever had the occasion to follow two sheriffs before. It's a privilege. We all know we think a lot of our sheriff here in Nash County, Keith Stone. I've just met Samuel here in the last few days, or about a week. Had a lot of phone conversation with him. The man loves to talk, I will tell you. First time I called him, his wife ran him in the office and told him to shut the door. But I enjoyed the words he had to say. I'll always like to recognize the commissioners when I speak if they're in the room. I know we have Commissioner Sue Leggett with us in the back right here. Sue, you mind standing up? I do not think I had a note to come in. If you do, if you would tell me you were here. I promised Commissioner Outlaw, because we are in Commissioner Outlaw's District 5, with the location we are here in, and the proposed location for the casino is in District 5. Commissioner Outlaw wanted to be here very badly, and he actually told the pastor and Emil that he would be here, told me he would be here, but then he had to call back the next day when he informed his wife what he had done, when he found out that they had tickets for about 2 months to a show that he was supposed to take her to for her birthday at the Rudy Theater. And he is probably in the same position that I'm in. He loses most battles with his wife, quite frankly. He didn't win that battle. A lot of you know my wife, and I don't win many battles there as well, but that's okay. Wayne and I both were certainly privileged to have the wife that we got. We both married up, in my opinion. I know I did anyway. I'm going to speak first, if I may, as the chairman of the Nash County Board of Commissioners. we as a whole found this particular thing about a potential casino in Nash County, and I'm not going to kid with you about it. If this thing passes, it's coming to Nash County. It's not going to another county. It's one of the 3 counties that's designated for it to come in. I have spoke to Senator Byrd, I have spoke to Tim Moore, and they both acknowledge that it is indeed coming to Nash County as one of them. Rockingham County, as you said, and Anson County is the other county that's coming to. It's not only coming to Nash County, it's coming directly across the street over here. I've got the maps here for it, got the layout of it, and I've got all the property owners. Majority of them are under contract to sell the land, and the next thing we'll be doing, quite frankly, on a personal standpoint, we'll be talking to these landowners and seeing if we can do anything in that regard. But what our Board of Commissioners did Friday, about a week ago, is we sat down in closed session because this is an economic development project, as Councilman Chester said, we considered it that. So we were allowed to talk about it for quite a while in closed session. I'm going to be upfront with you. About 7 months ago, I was called down to the Gateway Partnership, and I did get a briefing on it myself. Saw the location and so forth. But prior to having that meeting, I was asked, as I am many times, to sign a non-disclosure clause, which means I won't talk about what went on in that meeting. And I can tell you here in church that I haven't talked about it at all to anyone, including our board. I wanted to tell the board about it, but I just couldn't do it. I continued for 6 months to ask our representatives in the General Assembly to come and speak to our whole board about it. I've asked the people that are pushing it in Rocky Mount to come speak to the board about it. I looked back and I had about at least 6 emails making that request. And they kept telling me they weren't ready to do that yet. I think that's very sad, quite frankly. The property is located in Nash County. It is in the ETJ of Rocky Mount. But to keep something of this magnitude away from our Board of Commissioners has really upset our Board of Commissioners. When we went in and talked about it, we had some very opinion. We got a very diverse board, which is what we should have in Nash County. We have three Democrats and we have 4 Republicans. We have 4 Caucasians and we have 3 minorities. And let me tell you, we work together very well. We get along very well. I'm proud of that, as all of our board members are. We sit in that room and we hash this thing out and we hash it out. And I don't mind sharing with you, the 4 Republicans on the board are totally against this regardless. It wasn't the case for all of our members, and so we, and I particularly as chairman, felt like we needed to find some ground that we all could agree on. So we kept talking, and where we ended up was, we, at least 6 of us ended up voting for the resolution that we passed. And what the resolution simply says is ask the General Assembly, if you indeed going to bring this to Nash County, allow us to have a local referendum in the bill to allow our citizens to vote on it.
That's right.
When you have a controversial item such as this, the people have got to be involved.
Right.
They've got to be allowed to vote on it. And that's all we're asking for. And I can promise you this, I won't speak for the other board members or the other Republicans particularly that are not in favor of it at all. I will promise that rest of our board members, if indeed we have this referendum and it passes, it's my job then as a commissioner to go to work and get it done and make sure it's done right. I did that with one of our schools that I didn't believe needed to go where it went. But the day we voted on it, on a 4-3 vote, the next morning I got up and I went to work trying to get that school built as economically as we could and to do it right. I will do the same thing with this item here, Mr. Chester. That's what I'm supposed to do. But we must really ramp this thing up to get the General Assembly to allow us to have a local referendum. The people in Nash County need to make a decision where that comes here or not.
Right.
And I ask you to do anything moving forward, not necessarily to be totally against it. It has some pluses, even though It doesn't take me long, because all I do is crunch numbers, as y'all that know me well, as I look at the numbers and everything leads by the numbers. It didn't take long to know the numbers don't work with this, the cost associated with it. But really, if you read the bill, the distribution of the funds, we say what's going to be brought to Nash County, but you got to understand, these funds are going to be spread over 80 counties in North Carolina. They're going to be 4 of us, they're going to have the burden of it. But that money is going to be taken and spread it over all Tier 1 counties, all Tier 2 counties, and that's 80 counties. We do get a larger share. I'm not going to be misleading, but I do not want the expense of all of it in Nash County when it's going to be spread as far as it is. And yes, we have many counties that have needs. We are a Tier 1 county. We fluctuate back and forth. Sometimes we're Tier 2, sometimes we're Tier 1. And it's a slippery little slope because, quite frankly, you're better off to be a Tier 1 because you get a lot more funding. But when the pot's divvied up. But I'd much rather be a Tier 2 county. And our goal is to become a Tier 3 county at some point. Tier 3 county is only 20 of them, and they honestly do not have many revenue issues. And I want to tell you, Nash County is not suffering for revenue. We're in excellent shape over at Nash County. We've got an extra fund balance, and believe me, we got an economic development team that we built over in Nash County that is doing a wonderful job. We have a lot of announcements already, and believe me, we got a whole lot more coming in the next 6 months of industry coming. The biggest thing we fight to get industry here is our workforce. And our school system. I'm going to be forthcoming. We need to do a lot of work on our school system and where our kids are in certain grade levels, but that's underway too. There are a lot of new things that will be happening to help that. But in economic development, I've studied this, and I will tell you, I've come to the conclusion that having this casino here in Nash County, and I'm going to take my commissioner hat off, and I'm going to take my chairman hat off, and I'm going to talk how Robbie Davis feels about this thing, because I don't speak for our other board of commissioners. I do want you to understand our 4 Republicans, I checked with them again as late as today, are all against this item. But on the other hand, what my personal concerns are several things. I invite all of you to spend some time with a study from Boise State University. It's 150 pages long, and I've read all of it twice and made notes out of it. It is an excellent document, and it's titled, Do Casinos Create Economic Development? And it's a 15-year national analysis of what happens when a casino goes to an area. It's not a pretty study, I will tell you that. A casino is not economic development. Economic development has to produce a product. What does a casino produce? It doesn't produce a product. It's got to produce a good, or it's got to produce something that's sold somewhere outside of your area. It doesn't happen in the casino. The industry itself likes to quote how few people are addicted to gambling. And indeed, when you look at it from the total population of North Carolina or the total population of the United States, it is a small percentage. But this study will show you that 40.6% of all gamblers have a problem with gambling. They have a problem with gamblers. That's a big number. It also will tell you that 75% of all income in casinos come from 6% of the people in a given area. And you know who those 6% are going to be in our area. They're going to be the people with the most needs. They're going to be the people with the children that are not looked after. They're going to be the ones that dream that they're going to hit it big and they're going to solve all their problems. And we all know here, and believe me, as an elected official, and all of our board members know, we have those people in the likes of Nash County and the surrounding area. A couple of other numbers that the study will point out. when a casino goes in an area like Nash County, which I don't think anybody in here really believes we are a resort destination. We are doing very well now. I don't want to make light of that. The city of Rocky Mount has done an excellent job of building an industry of youth sports. I happen to have the privilege of also being the chair of the TDA committee, which the TDA is the committee that looks out. There's 15 of us that look after the tourism tax. That's what you pay when you rent a hotel and you see that 5 or 6% tax on the bottom of your bill. You may wonder what it is, but it's a tourism tax, and in Nash County it's 5%. With the city of Rocky Mount's help, we are doing wonderful with that tourism tax. Between the event center, the events that they have, and the sports complex, we have, if you go out on the weekends, particularly when the kids are in school, you see a lot of families in our restaurants with children. It's a wonderful thing, quite frankly. And it's growing all the time. And we've got other things coming. Nash County has built a park system. We're filling up our parks. We are having our own tournaments. Girls softball is big for night in Nash County, and we have a lot of families coming here for that. We can build tourism without a casino. And I certainly hope that our citizens will do what they can to convince our General Assembly that we need to have a local referendum on this if indeed they're going to push it through. And having it in a budget bill, I've been in politics a long time, and that may be the craziest thing I've ever heard, is to put, well, the casino comes to an area in a budget bill. It needs to be a standalone bill, and quite frankly, it needs to be a referendum across the whole state. As you and I have discussed here. But if they're going to put it in Nash County, I'd like to have a referendum where all people in Nash County, City of Rocky Mount, all of our small towns, and I do invite those that support, particularly the people in Rocky Mount, to study the bill real well. When you get through divvying up this revenue the way this bill says it, Rocky Mount's not going to be left with a whole lot of funds. It's going to be put all over the whole county. Every town, small or large in the county, is going to get some of that. It's going to be distributed the same way our sales tax is. And it's done as fair as you can do it, quite frankly. It's going to go by the population and where they're located at. That's how it will be distributed. But the sad thing is, it's going to be distributed over 80 counties. And there's just not going to be that many funds left. And I just don't think it would ever offset the cost involved in what it would have. The sheriff is already telling us he's short of officers. We certainly know that. And we are short EMS workers. We are short 911 operators. And I just can't imagine what this thing is going to add in those 3 fields, Sheriff. The number of people that we're required. I don't see the revenue stream coming back from it that will support what it's going to take to keep those positions filled. But that's to where I stand personally. I'll be glad to answer questions later. And the thing that bothers me the most is we're right now, 3rd year in our economic development department at the county, and we are doing good. Another study that I read will show you that most industries are not going to come to an area that has a casino located in it because they're not going to compete for that job as we were very close this past week to landing an industry in Nash County distribution that was going to bring 2,500 jobs. And on Friday, and Sue, I apologize, the board doesn't know anything about this because it hadn't got to the board yet. But on Friday, they chose to go somewhere else. And I can't help but think they may have found out about this. It's not factual. I'm not telling you they did find out about it because I don't know. But I worry that there will be others that will find out about it if indeed this happens. I'd rather do true economic development. I'd rather bring industry here that produces a product or distributes a product. Local legislators to put this referendum in the bill if it's going to be a bill, and hopefully, it will at least not happen this year and give us more time to work on this together and to do the right thing for Nash County and the people in Nash County. I'll be available to answer any questions that you have. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. We appreciate your insights. Again, I would like to say that we appreciate each one of our guest speakers. We did invite Senator Barnes to come. She said she was going to be out of the country on business and would not be able to be here. But she, as far as my understanding on telephone, she is in favor of having a casino, if it passes, in favor of the bill. So I just wanted to mention that because we endeavored to have a broad spectrum of viewpoints, but primarily factual information. Our next speaker is probably the only one who has not been elected, as far as I know, to any political office. He has 25 years experience as a veteran of North Carolina's political and public policy. He is John Rustin. He's the president and executive director of the North Carolina Family Policy Council. So I'm going to ask Mr. Rustin at this time if he will come forward.
Thank you, Pastor Harper, and Representative Chesser, Mr. Chairman, and other commissioners and sheriffs. And not only them, but each one of you that are here. Thank you for taking time out of your schedules to be here, to be concerned and interested in this issue. It is incredibly, incredibly important and could be incredibly, incredibly impactful on this area of North Carolina, but not only this area, but the entire state in lots of different ways. Just a word about the North Carolina Family Policy Council. We are a faith-based public policy organization. We've been around for over 30 years in North Carolina and work to bring a biblical perspective, a family policy perspective to particularly the North Carolina General Assembly. So we're working on a daily basis with members of the legislature, both the House and the Senate. We also work on the local level on issues like this that will be very impactful to communities across North Carolina. And we also work with our congressional delegation to help provide information to them so that they better understand decisions that they're making and votes they're casting on issues that will affect each one of us. We have been, as I said, the Family Policy Council has been around for over 30 years. For over 30 years, we have been studying the issue of gambling in our nation. Research over decades clearly demonstrates that the more prevalent gambling is, and the more forms of gambling that are legalized and advertised, the more citizens are going to gamble. It's just a simple fact. Of those who do, a significant percentage, typically 3 to 5%, will develop a pathological or problem gambling issue. And as the state introduces additional forms of gambling, like the state legislature did not too long ago with sports betting, statewide in North Carolina, and now we're discussing casinos and video lottery terminals under the auspices of the state lottery, which are basically video poker machines that, as Sheriff Page said, we've been trying to get rid of for many, many years in North Carolina. And now, there are discussions in the legislature not only to authorize up to 4 commercial gambling casinos in North Carolina, but also tens of thousands of video lottery terminals across the state operating under the auspices of the state lottery. So the issues of pathological and problem gambling in North Carolina are just going to explode even more as a result of this. And let me tell you, there's a human cost. We've heard a lot about the potential economic benefits. There is an enormous human cost associated with gambling addiction. And let me tell you what those are. Increases in theft, embezzlement, job loss, personal bankruptcy, substance abuse, domestic violence, child abuse, divorce, and even suicide. And we have been testifying for years and years to our state lawmakers about these real human effects of all of the various gambling proposals that they have been considering. legislature authorize sports wagering, turning every phone, computer, tablet, and smart TV in the state into a gambling device, they also authorized pari-mutuel wagering on horse racing. And so we've got that in addition. As far as casinos are concerned, as you've heard already, today's casinos are huge, all-in-one commercial developments, enterprises. They're not just gambling facilities. They include restaurants, hotels, entertainment venues, retail space, all of these things to keep customers in until they spend essentially all of their money. They keep them locked in for as long as possible. So I printed out today, you've heard about the Caesars Casino that's being built in Danville, Virginia. Let me read the description on the website. Property plans include a 500-room hotel and a world-class casino gaming floor with over 1,300 slots, 85 table games, live table games, 24 electronic table games, a poker room, and a Caesars sportsbook for sports wagering. In addition, the resort will feature a full-service spa, pool, high-quality bars and restaurants, a 2,500-seat state-of-the-art live entertainment theater, and 40,000 square feet of meeting and convention space. So what do you think that's going to do to existing restaurants, to existing hotels, to existing entertainment venues in that area? It will decimate them. It will not bring an economic boon. It may provide some jobs for the construction and for the hiring, but the high-level jobs in these casinos are most often filled by high-level casino employees from other casinos out of other states, not from within the own community. You've got to have people who understand casino operations to operate at those high levels. Casinos cannibalize, and studies have shown this for years and years. Casinos cannibalize the local economy and compete directly on a very unfair playing field with local restaurants, hotels, retail stores, and other entertainment venues. They divert customers away from those local businesses and into the casino. Again, these huge developments that are designed to lock people in to spend as much money as the casino can possibly get out of them. Casinos also siphon money away from local spending on consumer goods and also personal savings. Because people will, if they've got additional funds, they may well go and spend that at the casino. Moreover, as you've heard some, but studies have shown this over and over again, casinos, especially massive destination-style casinos along major interstates, are magnets for crime, for violence, for illegal gambling operations that operate in the dark, behind the scenes, for prostitution, and most sickeningly, human trafficking. And these are the human costs, and the real concerns about this. There was a report that came out a number of years ago called Why Casinos Matter. And this study was done, and the report was published by, there are 30 experts on public policy issues that have been studying gambling. And I want to refer a little bit of this to you. This is a resource that we can make available to you if you'd like to read more. But I want to share with you, it says 31 evidence-based propositions from the health and social sciences. Now that sounds a little fancy to me, but it's basically they studied the issues, the impact on health and social communities. And I want to share with you some of the findings from this. I'm going to have to put on my glasses. The new American casino is primarily a facility filled with modern slot machines. A modern slot machine is a sophisticated computer engineered to create fast, continuous, and repeat betting. Modern slot machines are carefully designed to ensure that the longer you play, the more you lose. Modern slot machines are highly addictive. These are my words, not the words of the report, but slot machines, gambling, video poker machines have been referred to, and I think rightly so, as the crack cocaine of gambling because they are so highly addictive. Modern slot machines are engineered to make players lose track of time and money. And the design of casinos are designed to help people lose track of time. Casinos, you could not, as I'm doing right now, you could not look out a window and see whether it's day or night. Designed to keep you in there as long as possible. And with all the frills, free drinks, all those sorts of things, hey, it's kind of not a bad place to be until you walk out and your wallet's empty. Casinos depend on problem gamblers for their revenue base. Living close to a casino increases the chance of becoming a problem gambler. Problem gambling affects families and communities as well as individuals. Casinos extract wealth from communities. Casinos typically weaken nearby businesses. Casinos typically hurt property values in host communities. If you're a property owner, you should be very concerned. State regulation of casinos create a conflict of interest in which the state is charged with protecting the public from the very business practices that generate revenue for the state and which the state is co-sponsoring. And I would say, based on what we've seen with the lottery and other things, states become addicted to this revenue. They become dependent upon it. And so it creates a real cycle that feeds on itself. States are typically failing to provide adequate help for the treatment of problem and compulsive gambling. You heard the law enforcement officers here today talking about concerns about being equipped to consider and address increases in crime and other problems. Some states are propping up failing casinos. So tax money is being used to compensate where casinos fall short. Regional casinos are a regressive source of revenue for the states. I want to just read the summary or the conclusion of this report, which says, evidence from the health and social sciences suggests that the new American casinos are associated with a range of negative health, economic, political, intellectual, and social outcomes. For this reason, we view state sponsorship of casino gambling as a regressive and a damaging policy. Again, I'm happy to share this with you. It's available on our website. There's much more than I'll have time to share, but if this is of concern to you, there's a wealth of information. It's well documented, and these are not only issues that have been around for, there was a National Gambling Impact Study Commission that was commissioned by Congress that put out their report in 1999. And they called for a pause on gambling expansion across the United States because of the destructive and negative effects that it was having. States have gone on, of course, as we know, and expanded gambling in lots of different ways, but there's a lot of great information in there. Just a couple things I want to mention, and I also have some action items for you. So if you're sitting there going, okay, I've heard a lot of information, what does I do? I'll get to that in just a minute. This comes as no surprise to anyone here, but what we're talking about in large part is money. It's all about the money. We have been involved in the legislature for many, many years. Last year at the Family Policy Council, we worked to identify all of the organizations, the businesses that were registered to lobby in North Carolina and that had registered lobbyists representing them. And this was really a big part of the push for sports gambling in North Carolina. We found over 25 registered principals, which are the companies, who had hired over 50 lobbyists to get sports gambling and other gambling expansion passed in North Carolina. We're seeing that even more with this legislation. Some folks have testified and said that they had just heard about this just a matter of weeks ago. We didn't hear about it until like 2 months ago, but we've also heard that this thing's been going on for months and months and months, and it's been kept very quiet. There are, as you've heard, discussions that this is going to be rolled into the budget conference report in the legislature, which basically means there's no up or down vote on casinos or gambling expansion, it would be an up or down vote on whether to approve the budget or not. A $30 billion budget. A couple of things that I would note is that it will take years for a casino to start generating revenue in North Carolina. It will take at least a year, if not longer, for video lottery terminals to start generating revenue for North Carolina. So it has nothing to do with this fiscal year budget that the legislature is delayed on passing. It is, in some people's eyes, a mechanism to shield the vote on this legislation, and that is patently unfair. I would also express concerns about I don't disagree at all with a local referendum vote for the citizens in the community to authorize that. We've been doing that for liquor by the drink and alcohol sales for decades in North Carolina. The concern that I have about that is we need to defeat this legislation, in my opinion, now. If it comes to a local referendum vote, I just told you the gambling industry has hired over 50 lobbyists to get gambling expansion in North Carolina. That is huge money. They will come in with, printing money to influence the vote locally. And so while it's laudable that your voice is heard, and your voice needs to be heard and should be heard, thinking that in a local referenda that your voice, if you are concerned about this, is going to have equal weight to the gambling industry coming in, knowing how much is at stake for them, it's not hard to think how the outcome of that may happen. By God's grace, hopefully, if it were to come to that, that those who have concerns about this would prevail, but you've got to have your eyes wide open and realize the forces that you will be up against. On the to-dos, I've got some resources here. I've got a handout for you that includes the members of the State House, including Representative Chesser, and the State Senate, as well as the Speaker of the House and the President Pro Tem of the Senate, Phil Berger and Tim Moore. It has their contact information on here, and the legislators, the House and Senate members who represent not only Nash County, but also Edgecombe and Wilson counties. Because it's going to be, multiple counties around Nash County that are going to be affected in huge ways if this comes to fruition. So that resource is up here, and I would encourage you to take that. Contact your member of the House and the Senate, as well as the Speaker of the House and the President Pro Tem of the Senate. We typically encourage citizens, contact your legislators. You're going to have most impact with them, but because this is such a huge, vital issue, I believe it's incredibly appropriate for citizens across this state to contact the Speaker of the House and the President Pro Tem of the Senate. And they are really going to be the ones that are making the decision about whether this proposal moves forward or does not. So that resource is up here. I've got a copy of our magazine as well that includes an article about gambling and gambling expansion and the risks of that in North Carolina. So that's up here as well. And I would just encourage you to take advantage of those things. I would also am happy to field questions. I want to just end, since we are in church, Pastor, if I may, to end with the scripture, and this is 1 Timothy 6. It says, "For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil." Some people, and we're familiar with that, but the next part of that, verse 10 says, "Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs."
That's right.
Inviting gambling expansion into our state is inviting additional griefs upon our citizens, upon our families, upon our communities, and upon our state. And we don't believe that's a good idea. And I really am grateful for your time and attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rustin. We appreciate your insights and wisdom along with all of our speakers tonight. We realize hopefully some of your questions got answered and some of the rumors has been dispelled. But if you have an additional question, we asked you, you've been given a piece of paper when you came in, write the question on a piece of paper, put the person whom you would like to address the question to. We have someone that's coming down the middle of the aisle. If you'll pass them toward the center of the aisle, if you, any questions you may have, and we will try to have whichever speaker address that issue. From Mr. Sheriff Keith Stone, I appreciate you being here. One of our church members had a question for you.
Okay.
They were wondering if a casino is self-policing, or is this something that, whether it be if Rocky Mountain or the sheriff's department are the ones that are responsible for what takes place inside the casino, or do they have their own security and it's totally self-policing?
Similar to any large ball or anything else, you're going to have probably security there. I would imagine in most of these places, or the three that I talked to, they have well-trained security people there. Obviously, they got a big investment in it. However, the criminal conduct will come back to the local. If it's in the city, the police department will do it. If it's in the county, the sheriff's office will do it. So obviously, you know, the security handles the security end, but the sheriff's office, the police department would handle the crime end. If it's a criminal offense, obviously, we would have to handle it.
Yeah, I think the concern was it like Disney World, where they pretty much contain their own, anything that happens there stays there?
No, because it's a private organization, unless the state had it and then they implemented something like a state capitol police or something of that nature. But if it's a private organization, it will be left to law enforcement because we're the only ones with authority over this.
Thank you very much. Do we have some more questions?
You want someone to finish out?
Okay. There we go. Again, thank you. And we'll see. I will try to be as fair as I can. Hopefully I can read your writing. But I will try to be as fair as I can. And we will try to address as many, obviously we can't be here at midnight, but we will try to address as many questions as possible. Just gonna mix them up so you can. We believe in integrity and over here at the church, okay? And I am serious about that, by the way. Okay, for Representative Alan Chester, have you considered the spin-off of businesses such as adult businesses which will bring down the reputation of Rocky Mount and property values? Maybe would you mind standing just so people can, would you like for me to read the question again?
Can I hold it?
You sure can.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So, spin-offs of businesses. So when I was looking at the development, same presentation Chairman Davis got, we look at just that particular development. I wasn't briefed on anything that could come from outside development. I mean, we already have adult entertainment elsewhere within the county and within the city. So that's not unique. It's not that we're condoning that, but it's not included in this particular plan at all. So this, what I saw was a family-oriented scenario that had a casino attached. That's what I was briefed on. So as far as, I can't predict the future and I don't try to, guys. I just, looking at it, and one thing I know is it's a development within our community that would provide jobs.
While you're here, the next one's for you.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. And we do appreciate you being so kind. Is it true that the lottery no longer supplements the education budget, but not essentially the budget? And how do we know similar won't occur with shifting of funds gathered from this?
So I'm going to think I know what they're trying to ask here, so I get myself in trouble here. So the lottery was initially initiated, I shouldn't use this word back to back like that, but bad grammar will help you remember. So as a supplement program to increase funding for education. what ended up happening were local governments at the county level and some at the state level ended up dependent on those funds, and what they would do is find out how much they're getting in lottery supplement, and then they would reduce their own personal funding or own obligation to education by roughly the same amount, right? And then we would say, oh, we're not seeing any benefit from the lottery. Are we though? Right? So there's always that. What we tried to do this year in the budget was actually change the way we worded some language and said, this is the funding that we're allocating specifically for raises, so that that cannot occur.
Maybe we should just let you draw one out. Let's see what we got here.
I'll wait till you tell me.
Yes. This is for you as well.
I need a sidekick. Does anybody
Let's
want to
see here.
get this part?
I'm trying to discern this. Is Speaker 1 Chester. Number 2, Sheriff Stone, not enough law enforcement process. What is being done to hire more officers besides raising salaries?
So is that for me?
Well, it's got 1 and 2.
You can help me with it.
I don't know if I'll go bent or not. And there's a third one question as well.
Okay. The third one's for you. So that's about as much as I can read as your name.
So the number one thing, as I told you a while ago, Rocky Mount went with 40-some openings to hardly any, and I don't think they have any openings now by raising salary. I'll ask each one of you, if you have a business and you're doing the exact same job at this business, but you can go 5 minutes down the road and make $28,000 more a year, where you gonna go to? I'm not talking about no $2,000, I'm talking about $25,000, $30,000. You're gonna go there. So obviously, that's the number one thing. I could sit here and tell you, yeah, we're gonna make an elaborate website and we're gonna do recruitment, things of that nature. Rocky Mount tried that, it didn't do well. But when those council members and that mayor put the salary there, that's where you go to. Professional people are going to get paid professional salaries. Nobody cares about that until you have a horrific crime in your neighborhood, and then you want a true professional to come. And I can tell you with this casino, if you're talking about a career criminal or somebody following this stuff, it takes trained law enforcement that know how to do technology, and they know how to look at these license plates and do dissections and do cell phone dumps and things of that nature to do the real analysis to catch them. You don't see the federal government lacking in an area of where it matters with these top law enforcement agents. They pay them well so they can keep them. It takes a year to get a law enforcement officer from the start till he's on the road, and it's $30,000 to $50,000. I've lost 15 of them. We have a depleted pool of applicants, and as I go back to Rocky Mount, I don't blame Rocky Mount, I commend them for what they do. You know, they're not picking up the guy off the street that's going to train him, they're getting the training that's there. So obviously, he is a lot of that, and that's where we're at. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you very much. If somebody get Brother Chester here a bottle of water, he's kind of under the hot lights here. At this time, I didn't get your question, but I heard it was for you, Mr. Davis. Would you like to stand up? Maybe you can read the question and
I'll be glad to.
share some insight.
What it says is, from this individual is, I live in this community right across the street and do not want that casino across the street from my home for reasons of safety, and I do not want my young children and grandchildren exposed to it as well. If voted on by the people to allow the casino to come to Nash County, can another location be considered? Along the line of what you said. If you do allow a local referendum and it passes, you still got the same issue. I agree with your comment 200%. But the issue we have, we felt like the best insight we could get to get the General Assembly to listen to us was to buy a local, having a local vote on it. As I made very clear, our 4 of us on the city, on the commissioners are certainly not in favor of this, and that is a risk you would take if you did, but it beats not having any say. It is a position that I board. The Sue, I'm okay with where we're at. I always ask other commissioners if they agree with it. Yes, it could go to another location. It could go to another location in another county would even be better.
That's right.
If it's coming anyway.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. And I do want to point out something that we were really concerned about. They set it right in the middle of 3 of our high schools. And you know what children do when they get out of high school. They look for something to go get into. The dead set in the middle of 3 of our high schools. That's Nash Central, Northern Nash, and Early College, directly across the street from it. Keep that in mind.
Okay, and this one had, I think you answered their question with those comments about could be put in another location. I'm not sure how to respond to this. It says, so we want to get the whole family involved in gambling. We need respectable jobs. It was not directed to anyone, so if anybody wants to comment on that, you're welcome to do so. Here's got a Bible verse. I do not see a specific question, so I'm going to set that aside. This is for Robbie Davis. How would home prices be impacted in Nash County if casino entertainment district is established? A casino or an entertainment district, how would home prices be impacted in Nash County?
I'd have to honestly say that by not having any history whatsoever on having a casino in our area, I don't think I could adequately answer that. I will tell you, if you look at this study from Boise State.
Excuse me, Robbie, sorry. There's things coming in that people on the live stream can't hear the speakers down here.
Okay. Thank you.
What I said was, naturally, with no history, I can't answer where it will affect home values or not. We've never had a casino in Nash County. What I will tell you is the study from Boise State University says it will have an adverse effect on property values. It doesn't say home. I also point out, if you go on the internet, I hope a lot of you remember the name Skip Stanham, who was in our house for a very long time. Very well thought of. And had he not retired, he'd probably be the Speaker of the House today, quite frankly. He has put out a position paper on it, and he emphatically said that it would affect home values in an area, and 10 other points that he had issues with. The things that I mentioned, if any of you would like them, if you'll email me, I'll be glad to send you copies of everything I've read. But Paul Stam had some great points in the points he made, and he is an attorney out of Apex, very well thought of. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. The next question is, anyone can answer. If the council voted against it, why are we here? Why did they just take a poll? Landowners are not under contract, why are we here? Is an outlet mall also part of a casino package deal? Can anyone answer that? I think that probably was pertinent. Is there an outlet mall to be connected with the?
I will say,
You probably covers.
of course, the commissioners have not taken a vote on it. It would do us no good to have a vote on it because it's not in our venue to say whether it comes or not. Our vote was to try to affect the General Assembly who is calling the shots on this. Simple. I'll call on the General Assembly now.
Those are questions.
Here's one here, like I said, your name on it.
Yeah, I think there are multiple questions here.
That's
so,
true.
As far as it says a Tanager outlet mall, there is a series of shopping or a small area of shopping center. There's small shopping centers, what do we call it? Suites, thank you. So there's a handful of those. I don't remember the exact count off the top of my head, but there was availability for some shopping suites in there. This one says, are there any plans to give casino locations state money to assist with their local and county law enforcement? And it looks like it's signed by me, but it's not. Yeah, we put my name on the bottom, so that's good.
You should have asked for that.
So, part of the deal, it is anticipated, right, in the bid package, that there is an offset that would be provided by the casino to local law enforcement to assist. The entire point of using this as a revenue generator is that it costs the taxpayers nothing. So if the state then supplements that, what we say is they should be setting aside their own funds if they're bringing additional attention to an area that's at their cost, and they should be providing that to the local law enforcement.
You'll choose to get your names on it?
Rick really wants to clarify.
I'm sure somebody else, you will have someone else.
Go ahead, Rick.
I just want to ask a question. Unlike the education
Paper.
lottery, which was to give new money to the state for education, once you said at the beginning, this whole scheme or idea is not to generate new revenue, it's just so we can reduce taxes in another area. Is that right?
That is
in
my-
your understanding from where you saw it.
So,
It's not new money, we're just going to lower taxes with this revenue, hopefully when it comes.
at the state level, that is accurate.
Right, that's what I'm talking about.
At the state level, that is accurate, that's what this is for. There's also about 10% of revenues, which Robbie alluded to earlier, 5% going to the host county, and the other 5% being divvied up amongst other tier 1 counties. I believe, is it 15%, so it's even greater.
5 to the host, 5 to tier 1, 5 to tier 2.
5 to tier 2. Okay. And so, that's the way that the revenue breakdown is. So, for example, I started doing research and reaching out, and there's the closest one that is in a population center is in Baltimore. 5% of their revenues, which they just gave back a couple months ago, was $16 million.
How many people want to go to Baltimore?
11 million last year went to that particular casino. I asked. Right, that's not exactly high on your radar as a tourist destination. Like, man, I'm going to take a vacation. I'm going.
Very high crime.
Right. So that was a little bit over $16 million that one facility generated, and it's not necessarily what I would consider a resort-based facility. It has a medieval nights restaurant attached to it. I don't think that counts as a resort, but I was looking for population centers and stuff like that. Just something to compare it to that would be comparable to where we are. So do we want
Do
to?
you want to take that person, or do you just want to stick with the basket?
Yeah, I saw 13 hands. So.
Okay, let's stick with the basket.
He said that landowners were already under contract for this project. They made that statement earlier that the landowners of this property were already under contract
That was your comment.
for this deal going down. What are we talking about? They're already under contract for it.
I think so. They're not under contract. There's a right to purchase. So if it proceeds, then these people have first dibs to purchase the land. Is the way it works. It can still fail. Full disclosure, it can still fail. And so.
That's the question I was asked earlier on a piece of paper. Because if we open it up, we'd be here to midnight. Would you like to say something, brother?
I just want to qualify that.
Yes, sir.
The land is under option, some of them are, some of them not. They're not under contract. To my knowledge, none of them are under contract.
Well, that was the verbiage that was used.
The most of, I think I made a statement, if I use contract, I was in there.
I'm sorry.
It should be option,
Okay.
which basically what that says is you have agreed to sell it at a given price. In a given period of time, you will pay some money to hold the land for that time. And that land, some of it has been under options for a very long time. Some of it has happened fairly recently. And those are not public information, it's just information that I've learned.
Can we ask who is the person, who is the casino company? Who owns the casino?
That has not been determined yet. It will be, what the bill says. I will tell you what the bill says. Proposed bill says is there will be a process by which they will take proposals from several casino owners. And then they would evaluate them and see what the best proposal is for North Carolina.
Stay here, because these are for me and you. So, first question is, are there concerns with casino market saturation? Absolutely. Anytime you have multiple facilities of the same industry going in the same area, you worry about saturation. And so, what we're looking at in the current version of the bill, in full disclosure, I found out about the bill when it came out on WRL. That's the first time I actually saw the language. I knew that something was in consideration, but that was the first time I saw the language. The language has been held up in the corner offices of the General Assembly, and those two guys don't share well. So what we're attempting to do is create regions. If this were to occur, we create regions. Okay, that way we don't end up with 35 casinos across the state. That is the intent, as it's been explained to me, and that is my intent as well, is to not make this something that pops up in every single county across our state. Second question, I'm going to paraphrase here. They're talking about the difficulty of filling jobs currently. So if we can't fill jobs locally, where are we going to hire people from? They say if we can't hire Nash County residents and it comes from outside, it won't affect our unemployment rate. Doesn't have a question mark on the end. I think that's more of a statement, but if I can tweak that in, that's where, so this casino will recruit. Just looking at other casinos, I mean, even in Cherokee, within our state, a small one, but even in other states, they tend to recruit and have employment from about 70 miles. If you look at Pfizer has employees that are coming in from Virginia as well. I mean, I think Pfizer has employees from 28 counties.
That does not help Nash County.
Huh?
70 miles outside of Nash County doesn't help Nash County unemployment.
The tax base is what helps Nash County. The tax revenues generated are what helps. And the propensity, the priority is to hire local residents. But for any company, it is hire the best worker for the job. And that should be the paramount concern. More jobs available within a particular area help the unemployment rate in a particular area.
I won't smile at you, I'll smile at your wife.
Is she watching or is she? So this one might be for you. It says safety dash, will our county commissioners get the sheriff's department the funds they need to hire deputies that will be needed to respond?
No, we,
He's so benevolent.
I will say that's the neatest he's ever wrote. I will say our board is always doing all we can do for our employees. What we have to understand is we have 650 employees, we have 17 departments. I can assure you, and Keystone won't dispute this, that we have done more for him every year than we did the year before. I've got calculations been done now that I will have by next week showing what his budget has been ever since he's been sheriff and what has risen each time and the number of employees he has. I think you will be impressed with what Board of Commissioners has been able to do. What has happened lately is, and I'm not here to create territorial battles, but we've had an incident where an entity chose to raise salaries pretty significantly in our local area, and yes, it does mess up the balance. But in my opinion, you can't sustain that for so long. We've got to do something. When we give an employee a raise, you've got to be able to ensure that you can pay that raise the next year, throughout that 30-year career for that employee, and keep giving them raises each year. We're going to do absolutely the best thing we're going to provide the best benefits and salary for our employees in the sheriff's department that we can do and make our budget balanced, because we have to have a balanced budget. But we're going to also do it at the same time for all the employees we got that work in Nash County. That's the best way I can answer that.
We got one more. I mean, I can take it if you want to say it's just what happens to small business owners. So,
I'll let you take that.
so do yours.
We probably don't agree.
So what will happen to small business owners is, from this, it's an interesting standpoint because from an economic standpoint, and I assume we're talking about revenues and jobs when you're asking what will happen to a small business owner. It's not unique in this scenario to a casino or to an entertainment district. It's the same conversation we would be having on where's the work going to come from and what's going to happen to local businesses if Pfizer were to announce that they were going to do a 2,000 job expansion. Where are they going to come from? What's going to happen to our local businesses here? Or if we were to all of a sudden, get the mall fully renovated and occupied, where are those people going to come from? That particular avenue is not unique when it comes to this particular development. We still are going to have to go out there and have a recruitment effort and find these things. I spent some time at the beach as a police officer, and that's a tourist destination, okay? There are certain industries that do well with tourists, and there's certain industries that do well with locals. The truth is, the market dictates and the market decides.
One question back here, please. Stand up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I had some facts. I heard a lot of negative things about the casino, and just a few true facts. If we look at jobs and career, the direct casino employees will employ about 1,750 employees. It's retail and other recreational venues employees, which is another 2,500 employees. Direct and indirect employment is 5,000 employees. And the average compensation, which are salaries, is 50,000 or more. We look at the financial, it's 500 million minimum initial investment, 2 million, over 2 billion investment with a full bill out. State tax revenue is estimated about 100 million or more a year, estimated to 20 to 30 million. Local tax receipts from gaming sales, real estate, and other taxes. When other, like our Representative Alice Chester said, when other companies come, like Toyota, Wolfspeed, et cetera, they ask for the state, which is the taxpayers, which is all of us, we fund incentives over $1 billion. Rural tourism district will require no tax-funded initiatives. And the last thing, the physical facts, approximately 300 acres of development, 2 hotels, which is about 1,200 rooms, entertainment plaza, which is 150,000 square feet, water park, 500,000 square feet, office space, housing up to 1,000 units, and industrial opportunities. And just to get back to what Sheriff Stone said about the police enforcement, Rocky Mount did raise the police salary up to 36%, which puts us up here to, with Charlotte. And I heard our commissioner say Nash County wasn't hurting for money. So we're not hurting for money, we can fund our shares. And the last thing I want to say, when the commissioner was speaking, he said that those 6% people, I want to know who those people are. And who are those people who don't take care of their children and who don't pay their bills? We're worried about the 6%, but what about the 94%? I think it's, I don't gamble. If I go, it's like, play a game or whatever. But I look at the stock market, people gamble with that every day and lose money. That's my opinion, just my opinion. And I just wanted to read those facts. Thank you.
Yay!
Thank you. We just had a couple of really quick things. One, someone just made a general comment, what type of culture do we want Rocky Mount to be? I don't know, would you anybody like to address that? I think most of us want a Christian, family-oriented culture where children can play safely and we can feel safe in our homes. But I'm not an elected official, so that's my opinion. If anybody else would like to, here, yes?
That was my question. What I was trying to get to with that is, I grew up in a large city in Charlotte, went to school in Raleigh, and when I came to this town with work, there were some nice cultural values that were really attractive to raise a family here. Not perfect. We got our warts and our issues, but there's some things there. And I'm just asking the question, is a casino environment going to be a place that builds those kind of core values and culture that you want? We have a choice here to choose what kind of culture we want this place to be in 5, 10, 15 years. And so we got a great privilege. There's countries on this planet that don't have the choice. We do. And what are we saying to Nash Community College across the street from this proposed place about hard work ethic? Or are we saying get rich quick is the way that you should spend your money? Or should it be that, hey, you work hard, we study hard, we have a long-term view about how you build wealth? Or is it something that we're going for it quick? What do we say to people that lose their hard-earned dollars? I mean, we need to have people that can help them when they lose what they got. And so, now I personally don't gamble, but we have a choice here, a really important choice. It's up to us.
All of them been answered. He's got the last 2 questions. I guess they're for him. They're for him. We have really appreciated your participation. We hope it's been beneficial. And when he gets through, you're dismissed and you're free to leave. Just drive carefully. Yes, sir.
Before you dismiss, and I didn't promise my wife. I told my wife I wouldn't open my mouth. I didn't promise.
We won't tell
I
her.
break the promise, but I didn't promise. But somebody mentioned a landowner. I am one of the landowners that's under contract, and I'd like to explain a little bit about these contracts, because we have been deceived. So I'd like to explain that when it's all over. I'd like to
Okay, so if you, after these through, if you'd like to stay for a few minutes, Ken Dozier, who owns quite a significant portion of land that's under consideration. If you would like to hear his comments, you're more than welcome to stay, and he's more than welcome to come. But as far as our elected officials, if they want to leave or if they want to stay, our guest speakers, feel free to do so. Thank you all for your time. Yes, sir.
And elected officials would like to hear what that man said up there trying to.
Probably, yes, sir.
I'd just like to get an opportunity for a closing remark, and probably the rest of the speakers may wish to do that.
Okay.
Could you repeat the question? We didn't hear what he said.
We haven't got to the question yet, ma'am.
You want the closing remarks?
Closing remarks. Go ahead.
So this one, the question is, what's the difference between gaming and gambling? So it's somewhat nuanced from the way I understand it, but so gaming is when you sit beside or behind an instrument. Okay, so slot machine or play cards or anything like that. Sometimes, so even at a table. Gambling is when you are leveraging an event, the outcome of an event. So sports, race, what have you. Disagree? Agree? Roughly. I mean, it's nuanced, the difference.
If I may, the difference between gambling and gaming is a B and an L.
What are we going to do with the people who become addicted to gambling? So I would suspect that any company that's going to be getting one of these licenses is going to have to present the state with a plan to set aside funds to deal with any increase that we may encounter with that particular sector of the industry.
Okay, and thank you very much. Brother Davis, you said any one of the speakers have any last words they'd like to say?
We should go back and say more we spoke.
We should say. Does anybody have anything they would like to add among the speakers?
Sure.
Everyone okay? Okay. Ken Dozier would like to come. If you would like to stay, I'm sure he has some very interesting insights he'd like to share. However, as far as our speakers, they're free to go. They might want to hear what he has to say. I really appreciate the participation, not only of the people who came to listen and ask questions, but of all of our representatives that were present here tonight. Let's give them all a hand.
Doja, me and my cousins inherited property. It's divided in 10 tracts. I only own one. Out of the 10 tracts, there's 4 that's got legal, binding, notarized, signed, sealed options. Not sealed, but options. Which means if they come up between now and December the 31st with the funds, it's their land. If not, the land goes back to us to do as we please. Now, what I want to explain, because some people are going to begrudge me because I'm sitting to a casino. I'm not. We started being on option contracts, I say 15 years ago, maybe, in that range. We started out with Rocky Mountain Chamber of Commerce, Adam Matthews. He wanted options on our property because without an option, we agreed that we would sell, but without a legal option, they could not say land was for sale. But they wanted us to sign options because of the fact if somebody come in, an investor comes in with a big thing and they want to say, we want to land on this 250 acres to 350 acres. Is it available? They could not say, yes, it's available, if only one person said, I say. So the entire group said, yes, we will see it. They led us to believe that we'd see something like Cabela's, Dick's Sporting Goods, strip malls. They were talking about a street going parallel with 64, cutting across the Arrow Road, not Arrow Road, Freight Road, and it was going to be businesses that would support Rocky Mountain. When you heard on the news about a casino, that is the first time we heard of a casino. Now, I will say this. I held out for a long time on this last signing, but I did sign it. One thing I did take out of the option agreement they gave me, but they wanted a non-disclosure statement that I wouldn't say nothing to nobody. I'm going to believe if you don't want to tell something, something's wrong with what you're trying to do. But I'm still under the impression that I was going to be selling to something that would support the communities of Rocky Mountain and the tax base with legitimate, I call it legitimate, you may call it again anything legitimate, but to me, it's like robbing from the rich and giving to the poor, or taking from the poor and giving to the rich.
Yeah.
You're taking something that folks can't afford with it.
Yeah.
Now, I'll say this. My amount is close to $3 million. $3 million is a lot of money. Now, this farm was bought in 1900. I've got the deed to it. It's been farmland ever since, even farming today. I don't care if next year it's still farming if this deal goes through. I would prefer to be farming next year than for them to take my option up. But you're talking about $3 million that I'm laying on the line that I would give up if they tell me we're not going to buy it, we can't get the option. But I don't want anybody to go out here and think that Kent Dozier sold his land to a gambling outfit. I did not. They led me with the impression that it was going to be something that you would respect. Now, they told us at the beginning what kind of things they were going to be. I saw a big layout, streets, beautiful trees, businesses all around. Until, now Gateway Partnership had not Gateway Partnership, Rocky Mountain Chamber of Commerce and Carolina Gateway had an option with every member of my family that owns property. Under the same impression I did. Until this past year. The first time we met a guy named Tony, I can't remember his last name now. Copeland, Tony Copeland, a lawyer in Raleigh that represents whoever's coming. The first time I met him is the first time I met with Carolina Gateway, Norris Tosin. I found out that both of them used to be with the North Carolina government. They knew each other. I'm gonna be honest, I can't say this for a fact, but I believe they knew what was coming. They were evasive. Now, I'm the only one that lives in a house on this property. All my other family members live somewhere else. I live in a house that my great-granddaddy probably built. My granddaddy raised his family, and I raised mine. But I told them they wanted my land. I've got 3 deeds, 2 tracts of land, my house and yard. And I told them I am not selling you my property unless you buy my house, because you will not tell me what's coming. Every time I asked those 2 organizations, what are you going to put in this? They said, well, it'll be 80% white collar job. What is a white collar job? I don't know. I wear different colors every week. What is a white collar job? But I never thought that they were trying to be evasive in what they were saying. I just figured that was going to be a nice business. But that's the question I got. But I never knew what was coming, still didn't know until the news. But when I met with them, we were told by Copeland, Tony Copeland, we need to go ahead with these options. We'll be moving dirt in 3 months. They FedExed the papers in 3 days. Some of the family signed these papers immediately, sent them in. I didn't, because they hadn't agreed to buy my house. But they finally agreed. We'll buy your house, and we'll buy your land. I kept talking. My family members might begrudge me, but they finally offered me over double what my other family members had agreed to sell. They offered more than that to one of the others the other day. There's one in our family that has not signed nothing.
Good for how good.
But the thing is, they still would tell me nothing, but this is a white collar thing.
Thank you, sir.
Now, I hope and pray, and hope you'll start praying, that December the 31st at 5 p.m., they have not got a legal contract anymore. Because if they ever come back, there'll be a clause in mine saying it will be no type of gambling, whatever, in the next sale. But that's already gone by. But I don't want you to go out here thinking Kent Dozier sold it. I want to explain where I'm at. We got in on the back side and have not been told up front what's going on. And really, were they obligated to tell me what they were going to build? No. You know, that was a good price to me. I said, I'd be glad to take the money. If they had told me, I wouldn't be up here saying what I'm saying now. So I don't know of anything else I can tell, but I wanted you to know that until recently is when they got pushing hard. Now, to say we needed something else, I will say this. Last November, I had a firm from Wilmington contact me, and they were willing to pay me more money than what these quotes were. And they were going to put in multi-family housing. That's what they were proposing. The last I heard from them was before Thanksgiving holiday, we agreed this is what we'll pay. I said, that's fine. We'll get together after Thanksgiving. The Monday after Thanksgiving, they called, said it's still a done deal. The next day, I got a call, said we're going to back off. But from the time they told me it was a done deal on that Monday, 2 hours later, Tony Copeland called me, and you can't tell me, I'll believe it till the day I die, that that chamber and Norris Toast and them let them know what they had in mind, and they weren't going to get permits through Rocky Mountain or nobody else, and they blocked them out.
Everybody hear that?
Now, I can't prove that. It's just my theory. But there is other stuff out there that is willing to build in this area without this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing. If I could connect the dots here, Tony Copeland is a former, I'm sorry. If I could connect the dots, Tony Copeland is a former Secretary of State of North Carolina.